You may be familiar with the ancient saying, food is medicine. But how often do you actually stop and think about that when you're making your daily food choices? Is it at the forefront of your mind when you're dashing into the supermarket to grab something off the shelves for your dinner, or eating on the go? Well, maybe it's time for a dietary recalibrate. Is it time to refresh your well-being? So how different might you feel if really nutritious foods were your regular consideration? Not just that momentary delicious crunch as you're eating food for that short-term deliciousness, but the longer-term impact of the food once it becomes fuel to power your brain, your eyesight, your heart, your muscles and your hormones. Poor diet is considered to contribute up to 50% of common modern diseases. Now that can be an empowering feature for you because it is a key modifiable factor that can impact your own health. Food can be preventative medicine. It can transform how you feel. We've kind of got into the habit of disregarding the quality of food, the variety, the seasonality, the nutritional content, and the daily effort of food preparation. Because there are so many easier alternatives. Food that is pre-packaged and looks pretty, comes with great meal deals, smells amazing. But that short-term cost can have a long-term impact. And we can really slip into unhealthy habits with plates full of beige food and a real reliance on ultra-processed foods. So where do we start if we want to make some changes? Well, there's a little 15-minute task where you can look at the pros and cons of changing or not changing your current healthy eating habits. And I'm going to upload a template to the Oscar Kilo nutrition pages that might help you look. So here we have the pros and cons of not changing, of carrying on the practices and the habits that you've adopted for years. And then we contrast that with looking at the pros and cons of adopting some new healthy eating habits. And once you've weighed those up, and we're going to look at what the cost to you might be. So will the benefits be worth it? What will the cost be on your time? What will it cost you in terms of effort? And what will the levels of discomfort be? Are you prepared for this? What support and resilience do you have in place for dealing with cravings or some possible temporary hunger? So having done that exercise, if you now feel that the pros outweigh the cons in adopting some healthy eating changes and the costs to you are going to be beneficial, then I suggest that you make some small steps to be successful in your sustainable long-term changes. And here's an example. Say you are a shift worker and you have learnt that plant-based foods are more digestible for you to eat on a night shift. And also that having a really good source of protein at the start of that night shift can help you feel fuller for longer. And you look at the plant-based protein suggestions and it comes up with beans and pulses and lentils. But they're not the typical kind of foods that you would have on a regular daily basis, but you're willing to give them a try. So you look up a couple of recipes that you might then be able to add to your go-to take to work foods. And here's a suggestion as to what that could look like. So first of all, here is an example of a really easy to make but nutritious and economical soup using a can of cannellini beans, which are similar to the beans that you would have in a can of baked beans. And so these ingredients are all that I've used. Some celery, a carrot, some garlic and onion, a tin of chopped tomatoes. I would then use half a can of cannellini beans with between 150 millilitres and 180 millilitres of vegetable stock, depending on how thick you like your soup. And I'm going to throw in a spoonful of these nutritional yeast flakes. And these are a really good source of B vitamins, which can be really support energy. And I've popped it in my soup maker earlier. Didn't have to pre-cook or saute anything, just chopped it all up small, popped it all in, pressed go, and 20 minutes later, here we have some delicious tomato soup. And onto that we could add some lovely fresh basil leaves, and that'd be really easy to take to work for lunch or on a night shift. So the second recipe is going to be for these veggie burritos. And in this pan I have fried up some onion, some garlic, some finely chopped sweet potato and peppers, some sweet corn and a tin of black beans. And not only do beans produce a great source of plant protein, but they're also really full of fibre. And both of those nutrients really help to keep you fuller for longer than your simple carbohydrate food sources. And so at the end, I've added a little bit of kale. It doesn't need a lot of cooking. And then I have popped in a generous teaspoon of paprika, of crushed chilies, and of ground ginger with some seasoning. And all you then do is put a ladleful into the middle of your wholemeal burrito wrap, like this. And on the top there, I'm going to add a couple of slices of halloumi cheese and a generous helping of fresh coriander leaves. You could also pop in there a little bit of lime juice if you want to, for a little bit of pizzazz. And then all we're going to do is wrap this like a parcel, turn it upside down, and stack them all onto a baking sheet like that, and cook at about 180 degrees for between 10 and 15 minutes, so that the burritos are lovely and crispy on the top and the halloumi has started to melt inside. And they're a brilliant and non-messy alternative to sandwiches, perhaps to take in for lunch, or a great night shift meal option. So if either of those recipes appeal to you, do share them with your friends and your colleagues. And here are a few more suggestions of how you could incorporate beans, pulses and lentils into your weekly meal plan. So you could add a cupful of lentils into your regular bolognese sauce. This is a really economical way to stretch this dish further, because the meat element is usually the most expensive. Add a tin of chickpeas into a chicken casserole or a curry, and you can also make some fabulous hummus really easily with a tin of chickpeas. This is so easy if you have a food processor, and once you've nailed it once, you'll really think twice about shop-bought hummus. You can add various different flavours such as beetroot, lemon, coriander, or a few spices. And then with the black beans, you could do these burritos, or you could add them to some tacos. And the cannellini beans that we used in the soup is great to thicken a vegan pasta sauce made with tinned tomatoes, as an alternative to using cream, or in soups to replace potatoes. So I will leave you with that blank template to consider the pros and cons of changing or not changing your current eating habits, and where you might start to make some healthy additions to refresh your well-being.